The last pattern we're going to talk about in this course is the proxy pattern. The proxy pattern, as the name implies, allows us to create a proxy or an agent for a real object. So if we want to talk to an object, we'll talk to it through its proxy or agent. This agent takes our message and forwards it to the target object. Now, what is the benefit of this? Well, in this proxy, we can perform some interesting tasks such as logging, access control, caching, and so on. So let's look at a real example. Let's imagine we're going to build an application for reading ebooks. So in this application, we have a library. In this library, we have all the ebooks that we have bought. So let's add a new package called Proxy. Here we need a couple of classes. The first one is the ebook class. Now here we need a file name. So private string file name. And we should initialize this using a constructor. Pretty straightforward. So we pass the name of the file, and here we should read the file from the disk. So let's add another method, private void load. This is where we're going to actually read the file from the disk. So print loading the ebook, and let's add the file name here as well. So in the constructor, we get the file name, we set the field, and then we call the load method. Pretty straightforward. Now we also need a method for showing the ebook. So public void show, and here we print showing the ebook plus file name. And finally, let's add a getter for the file name field. So public string get file name, and here we simply return the file name. So this is our ebook class. Now let's implement the library class. So here's a new class called library. In this class, we need a method for adding an ebook to our library. So public void add, which takes an ebook object. Now here we need a list or a map to store these ebooks. I'm going to go with a map because with a map, we can quickly look up an ebook by its file name. Let me show you. So we declare a private field of type map of string and ebook. So we use the file name as the key and the actual ebook object as the value. Let's call this field ebooks and set it to a new hash map. Now in the add method, we're going to call ebooks.put. Here we should pass a key value pair. The key is the file name. So we call ebook.getFileName. And the value is the actual ebook object. So here's our ebook. Now, finally, we need a method for opening an ebook. So let's imagine when our application loads, we're going to display all the ebook covers, and then the user is going to open a particular ebook. So here we need a method called open ebook, which takes a file name. Now with this map, we can quickly look up the ebook with the given file name. So ebooks.get, we pass the file name, we get an ebook, and then we call the show method. Now in a real application, we shouldn't write code like this. We should count for the scenario where this ebook doesn't exist. So if we pass an invalid file name, this get method is going to return null. So we'll get a null pointer exception. So in a real application, we need an if statement to make sure that we're dealing with a valid file name. So here's our library. Now let's use these classes in our main method. So I'm going to create a library object, new library. Now let's imagine when our application loads, we're going to read the list of ebook file names from a database. So in this demo, I'm going to create a string array that represents the list of file names. In a real application, we're going to read this list from a database. So let's say file names, and here we can initialize this array like this. We add curly braces, and here we list our items. So here's the name of the first file, here's the name of the second file, and the third file. So this syntax is a quick way to initialize an array in Java. Now we need to iterate over this array, and for each file name, we need to load an ebook and add it to our library. So for file name, in file names, here we call library.add, and then pass an ebook object. So new ebook with this file name. Pretty straightforward. So when our application loads, we display all the ebook covers to our user. Now the user is going to double click on an ebook to open it. So to simulate that, I'm going to call library.openEbook, and here I pass the file name. Let's run our application and see what happens. So here we have 3 messages for loading 3 ebooks, and then we have 1 message for opening an ebook. There is a problem with this implementation. Currently, we only have 3 ebooks in our library. What if we have tens or hundreds of ebooks? When our application loads, we have to load all these ebooks from the disk and store them in memory. Now, as you can see, the user is not going to open every single ebook that is loaded in memory. In this demo, we're only interested in this ebook, but we're loading these additional ebooks in the memory. This is where we can use the proxy pattern. As you can see, creating an ebook object is a little bit costly because we have to read it from the disk and store it in the memory. With this proxy, we can create an object that simulates a real ebook, but it's going to load this ebook on demand only when we need it. We're going to see how this works in the next lesson.